Hello, this is Dr. Wendy Rowley in the series Lightworkers and the New Divine Feminine Energy. In this particular series, we're going to have a discussion about grace and about what is grace, when does it come, and what's behind grace. Because it's a word that has a lot of meaning and a lot of different definitions and a lot of ability to mean a lot of things. But we're going to give it to you in this series in a different way. All right, let's see what Alani has to say. Oh, good day to you, dearest beings of light. It is Alani of Cosmic Service, Pleiadian Mother of Sound. Sometimes we come in a little enthusiastically, and this one goes, oh, when we pop in. And that's the way of it, because we're excited and she's excited. All right, so grace. What is grace? Is grace an energy? Is it a light? Is it an ability to be able to open up and heal? Is it a forgiveness? Is it something sent by the Creator? Is it something that comes through your soul? Does it come through your higher self, which is your soul's records of the earth, and is like a little bit of a kind of a representation of all that you've created in your incarnations? Or is grace a wavelength of energy? We said energy, but we didn't say wavelength. What's a wavelength? And what does the word energy mean? The word energy is often thrown about to describe anything that is unseen. But from our perspective, and I represent the Pleiadian Mothers of Sound, which is a division of the Pleiadian Mothers. And as we've said, there's about 300 Pleiadian Mothers that are like overarching mothers of soul groups. And they are divided up and handle soul groups. And they work predominantly out in the greater field. And they were the bringers of the grids and the system and the 24th chromosome connection to divinity within you and to the Creator. As strange as that may sound. But you have yet to understand all of the forces in nature and science that are there. You have yet to understand the universe and how it is created. And you have yet to understand how the Creator is within all. And that is coming and unfolding, and some of it very soon. That will be the precursor to bringing in a lot more information. And we're going to leave it vague like that as a little teaser. Keep your antenna up, because you're going to see some profound things over the next 5 years. So, what is energy from our perspective? Energy is a pathway, and light is what travels in a pathway. So you could say that energy is a conduit between one thing and another, rather than a force, that it's a conduit, and that there's different frequencies of energy. So what's a wavelength? In science, they say a wavelength is when something starts to oscillate and it takes on a particular form. And it can develop another oscillation. And that can create a third oscillation in between. Let's say we try to go like that. And they think light is in wavelengths. Now, we don't mean to stir up people's consciousness into arguments or controversy, but from our perspective, a wavelength is not light. A wavelength is like the flavor of the energetic pathway that is bringing light through. And that's different. Another very, very bold thing we're going to say is that science thinks that light bends around planets. And we have said this once before, but it's relevant to this conversation now, so we're going to say it again. Could it be possible that light is, and planets, or what you think are our forms, bend around light? Different perspective. And from our perspective, that's the correct way to look at it. That light is, it's in a energy pathway which conducts it. It has a different frequency or flavor depending upon the information in that light, and that a wavelength are different levels of oscillation of that light. And that the ability for form to work with light has to do with how well that structure or form can bend with light. Very different physics perspective. But in the next 5 years, this will be proven. And that's all we're going to say about that. But from the perspective of grace, how does this conversation work into grace? How does that new, I can't quite wrap my head around it yet, I have to contemplate it and think about it a little bit more maybe. How does that idea that light is and that form bends around that light have to do with grace? What if grace is the ability of form to bend with light? And what if healing is form in grace bending to light and shifting and changing into something else? What if healing is form and structure bending with light in grace to become something else? So now we have an idea that grace is something that allows something to happen. So another way of looking at grace is to say that grace is the ability to bring in something that allows form and structure to bend and shift. So, this channeling is both for scientists, physicists, healers, light workers, and those who like to contemplate things of that nature. Because you'll notice many of the scientists in their books in the more modern times have brought in the idea of a creative source. And this one has seen that in some books she's read. And so maybe you all are ready and at the brink of a consciousness shift where you're going to see the Creator in creation in a different way. So why have we said that healing and creation and evolution be asked to be in alignment for the greater good of all through divine intelligence and grace? Because asking divine intelligence is saying, please, and I want to do it in alignment for the greater good of all. And asking for grace is that mystery of what comes in to allow form and structure to change based with light. So you can think of the light as being codes of creation, and you can think of grace as being the, get out of the way, this one, she's trying to think of a word for me. And you can think of grace as being the code that allows codes of creation to go forward. It's like the master key. It's like the master key that opens the pathways of energies to allow change, evolution, and healing to happen. And you call it grace. We call it the Creator's divine intelligence engine of change. And we referenced that in the last video. And we've teased about this for a while. So, in that kind of a perspective, grace is something you might want to request, because it's something magical. It is not in time or space. It comes from the Creator through divine intelligence, but it has the ability to open up form and structure to be able to shift and bend with light. And that's profound. And what if you could bring more grace and the ability to work with grace, or the Creator's engine of change at the soul individual level and the planetary level within the new evolving unity consciousness? We gave a bridge picture of the far enlightened future in either the Heart Tones or the Women's Sacred Sound about imagine in the future that you are so evolved that you all can create at the group level with the Creator in a divine intelligence in molding your planetary system and creating. And you do evolve to that. But before that happens, you have to learn to work with and in grace. Now, the bridge picture we gave you is millions of years in the future. But the potential of learning to work and evolve and heal in grace is something you will be unfolding into and allowing the idea that structure bends to light into the next 500 years. And in 500 years, when all the things that are going on now that we speak about are online for all humans, you all have a very big understanding of physics that will be completely different, and you will have identified what we call grace. And we hear this one in the background going, is it the creational levels of those two unknown 6 forces that people have brought forward in other channels and spoken about? And for those who don't know what that is, we're going to recap. You know that you have electro and magnetic forces. We actually call those strong and weak magnetics. And you know you have strong and weak nuclear forces. And we have said, but you have not found the higher force that works those two. And we call those the creational forces. And that is going to come forward through science in the next 5 years. They will discover those forces. But what we're talking about is not one of these forces. It comes through divine intelligence. And we're calling it grace for now, until you evolve into a particular word and understanding for it when you get to a consciousness uptick as these new things unfold in science. And quantum physics and scientists go crazy with new theories because it'll be so exciting to them, something new, once they discover these other two things, which are these other creational forces and something within interdimensional DNA. And we're going to leave that subject as that. Or just filled that in for this one and for others who knew of that particular prediction or potential unfolding that was read through some very high channelers that has been out on the web for over 30 years, and a couple other newer ones that have also been bringing this up. A few in the Sedona Journal of Emergence, some over in Europe, and some over in the Orient. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the ability to start to find within the divine intelligence of the heart field something else. And it's going to take a long time till science finds this. And it's something that will become accepted in faith in light workers and healers and shamanic people, such that they will develop something new in the healing paradigms. And that is coming in 2027. And we're going to leave that hint aside. And we're going to say that grace is the ability to bend form and structure to light, and that it is related to the engine of change at the soul level out in the greater field, and to your individual soul higher self engine of change that allows the opening of codes of creation to come forward. And once codes of creation come forward into the interdimensional DNA of an individual or group, it has the ability, grace, to activate two things that are often referred to as the activating principle and the membrane. And those are two pathways that align along the outer part of the interdimensional DNA in your central column. One allows universal life to come in with codes, and the other allows the divine feminine of the heart field to allow those codes to come in. And this is the force. Well, it's not a force. This is not an energy. This is grace, and that's the only way we can describe it. This is because grace allows these things to happen. And grace is going to become palpable in the energy field of light workers in 2027, in January, particularly those that were at the event where the 24th chromosome was activated. And potentially for anyone that goes to the great global women's healing parties, where the women are going to use the ancient Lemurian tones of healing, the heart tones, this one calls them, and do some profound and juicy work there. They will get activated to the new level of feeling the grace. And so we have to be a little cryptic, we have to be a little vague, and we have to just dangle some carrots and hints, because we cannot interfere with free will. And we cannot interfere with your creational process, nor can we interfere with your evolution and healing process. But when humans are very close to discovering something, we can come and give hints at what they're already going to discover. And that's what we're doing in this video. We are giving hints to those who will find their way to this, some in the science realm, some in the physics realm, some in the healing realm, and some in the medical realm, who this information will help, because they need to have a different perspective on why what they're doing hasn't come together yet. And there are 4 people who are going to have profound ahas in this and be able to bring something new into their work. And that's what we have to say about that. But for those of you juicy light workers who are called to listen to this series coming through this one, we're going to leave you with a final alignment, intention, alignment, activation, precursor to this feeling. And it's like a tiny stream opening. But the big kahuna streams are done in the profound activation work in groups, in person, live. And we speak about this type of energy in one of the videos, either in the Wonder of Human Designs playlist, the Heart Tones, or Women's Sacred Sound. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, there's much truth in those. And we've tried to let that be known through the series, as well as many of the alignments can be used by both men and women, because men have divine feminine in the heart field, as well as women, but women have that extra creational level of it out into the field. So we want you to understand that this work is universal, but it goes into specific things for women because a woman has to bring those in for women because of that connection to the creational level. So this is an alignment intention, and an alignment pre-activation to this level. And this one needs it now. And so she's going to share it with all of you because her work is getting to that need for that. And we'll just leave that at that. So sometimes when someone gets an upgrade, they can share it. And that's what's happening here. She's getting an upgrade for her work, and she's going to share this one. For those of you who didn't listen to any other videos, beautiful melodic sounds are when your soul is coming into your interim spirit body to enliven particular fibers of particular pathways. And the brr, brr, brr kind of sounds when she's going to turn sideways because her head needs to go back a little bit. So you don't have to look up her nose. Are going to be when that activation, pre-activation, little taste is going to open up. And then you're done. And if you want this, simply intend to have it, and your soul will do it, because your soul works in sound out in the greater field. And that's the language of the soul, sound. And that's why sound and sound alignments and sound activations and profound group sound work has come back now at the time of the great shift, as it was in the beginning and as it will be at the end when you become enlightened. And you're going to take your system and take it to another planet, like we did with you. So that's one way a system gets passed along, in benevolence, in evolution, for the greater good of all, in grace. Okay, we won't come back. This one won't come back, and we will just sign off. So you will have this. You can listen to it any time to enliven that feeling again within you, because it's a tiny channel. It's very subtle. Some will feel it, some won't. Some will have a sense of it, some won't. And some will outright know the pathway that it came into. Because there's people of all varieties of work, consciousness, evolution, higher self evolution, and soul evolution that are here on the earth at this time. You are at a very special time. There's a whole bunch of really advanced souls who came here and are not plugged into the system, but are here for a particularly short period of time just for the great shift. And they're in human bodies. And this one has met one. And there's approximately about 5,000 of these souls on the earth at this time. And after the great shift, they're going to go back to their home planet. Isn't that fascinating? You live in an amazing planetary system. It's very juicy. You're lucky. We had to evolve to what you are already in. And so we just want you to realize that you're in a special, blessed planet and to appreciate it and love each other, and keep working the puzzle, because it will come together and it will be magnificent and beautiful, millions of years ahead. So don't get caught up in the news. That's just a little bit of today. Think of the long-term picture of your whole evolution and hang on to the big picture, because there's much magnificence in that picture. Okay, sorry, we don't need to lecture. As we say, we don't lecture, we don't teach, we preach. We bring in new information, we unfold understanding of that information, which can sound like teaching, but it's not. It's exchanging information. And that's what higher creational beings do. They exchange information with you. Okay, here we go.